So, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Self-Overwhelmed with Tactics podcast. Today we are going to go ahead with Transcendent, or Transcend, I'm actually never quite sure, by Scott Barry Kaufmann, as a summary by the SLOWW.com site. And it is an amazing summary since it is so comprehensive and so long and so detailed that one could say, does it really matter then whether I read the entire book or not? I could just instead go to the summary and consume this one. I'm not quite sure. It really is also up to your how you feel about books, whether you like reading and whatnot, but I think that it is just a very, very good summary. Healthy Transcendence, which is the next chapter that we are going to go ahead with. I don't really know if I'm totally not going to finish it up today, but I wonder though how long it is. A bit is left, maybe like 3 episodes might be kind of close. So, considering the writings of Maslow and modern psychological research relating to self-actualization and the heights of human nature, I propose the following definition of healthy transcendence. Healthy transcendence is an emergent phenomenon resulting from the harmonious integration of one's whole self in the service of cultivating the good society. This view of transcendence, which I believe is the healthiest form of transcendence, is not about leaving any parts of ourselves or anyone else behind, or singularly rising above the rest of humanity. Healthy transcendence is not about being outside of the world or feeling superior to the world, but being a harmonious part of the whole of human existence. It is also not a level any human ever actually achieves, but it is a North Star for all humanity. In a nutshell, healthy transcendence involves harnessing all that you are in the service of realizing the best version of yourself so you can help raise the bar for the whole of humanity. Which actually sounds pretty good. I, in general, favor or appreciate the worldview or the way of thinking about the world evolving me being the best, but simultaneously trying to give the world the best I can give. I find that pretty amazing. I find that actually worth going for, because it is just a win-win situation. Like, why would I want it to be otherwise? The question then is, or now is, as he also kind of pointed out in somewhat the other way, is this actually possible, And or in general, is it actually possible for me to be the best while simultaneously being the best for society? Is this something that works? Is this something that could work? And I think in some instances that might work, if you are the right person to do so, because just because something is great for society doesn't mean that you would like to do so. And I've just forgotten about something pretty crucial today. I have to write it down. So, for society, it might be probably quite great if you are a very nice person, for example. It's a very dumb example, a very simple example. But what if I just don't like to be nice? What if I just don't like to be kind? This is then like, okay, it wouldn't work out. So probably it's not going to happen for everybody. Anyway, just being unnecessarily philosophical about things, I guess. Transcenders. To Maslow, these transcenders were people whose value system implies whose value system implies the Bodhisattva path to enlightenment, that is, the helping service to humanity or the helping of other people, and of simply becoming a better human being for others, as well as for themselves, and finally of transcending the ego. Maslow took his exciting insights and put them into a 1969 paper called Theory Sad, or C, I guess, which was published in the 2nd volume of the Journal of Transpersonal Psychology, echoing the distinction between transcenders and merely healthy people. Maslow argued that the merely healthy fulfill the expectations of Douglas McGregor's, or Douglas, might be Douglas, not Douglas, Douglas McGregor's theory, why. So the theory quote-unquote why, the letter Y. They are free of deficiency needs and are driven by the desire for actualizing of their personal potential and development of their identity, individuality, and uniqueness. Such people live in a world coming to fulfillment in it. Maslow noted, they master it, lead it, use it for good purpose, as healthy politicians or practical people do. I still always have the feeling that, first of all, the camera is pretty bullshitty, and second of all, like, it feels so, first of all, really blurred and desaturated for whatever reason. I don't know. Meta motivations and meta needs. Maslow proposed that transcenders are meta-motivated by higher ideals and values that go beyond the satisfaction of basic needs and the fulfillment of one's unique self. These meta-motivations include a devotion to a calling outside oneself, as well as a commitment to the ultimate values, or the B values, so B-values, the values of being. Maslow's list of B values includes truth, goodness, beauty, justice, meaningfulness, playfulness, aliveness, uniqueness, excellence, simplicity, elegance, and wholeness. Note, there are a total of 14 values mentioned in Maslow's The Farther Reaches of Human Nature. Maslow observed that when he asked transcenders why they do what they do and what makes their life worth living, they often cited those values. There was no further reason why they devoted so much time to their work. The values were not in service of anything else, nor were they instrumental in achieving any other goal. Maslow believed that satisfaction of the meta needs are necessary to avoid illness and to achieve fullest humanness or growth. They are worth living for and dying for. Contemplating them or fusing with them gives the greatest joy that a human being is capable of. Yeah, I think that, being such a person, being a person that is indeed able to devote oneself to society, by trying to be the best one can be, but solely for the purpose of indeed serving society, which may or may not be actually true, because you're trying to fulfill a higher purpose. And so this higher purpose might just not necessarily be about society, might not just actually be about other people, but, for example, about God. If you're trying to do everything that you can for God, then maybe this also implies being a good person inside of society and trying to help as many people as you can, and so on and so forth. And what I'm always seeing in days, what I'm always seeing in people that are pretty religious and or people that are following a higher purpose is that, indeed, they are always going to have purpose and they are always going to have meaning in life, because no matter what they do, there is the possibility that it is always going to be for their higher purpose, Okay, I'm resting because I need to have more energy for tomorrow so that I can be this good person, because this is something that I want to do for my higher purpose, this is something that I want to do for my God. There you have a meaning, and there you have a purpose in why you're laying down, why you're not quote-unquote being productive, why you're just doing this rather than that. On the other hand, as one is thinking about that, and as I'm thinking about that, we all can do so. We all can create meaning in our lives by simply thinking about things in a different way. And this is indeed something that I've been kind of talking about so much lately that that it is quite insane. But still, it is very difficult for me. It really is. It is really difficult for me to create meaning in my life by just thinking about things in a different way and by having a different attitude and worldview towards certain things. It would actually be pretty simple, and it is pretty simple. When you're laying down, this is just me trying to not overwork myself. This is just me trying to preserve energy. This is just me trying to do at least something rather than doing nothing. There is a multitude of arguments that you could make. Arguments? No, not arguments. There's a multitude of points that you could make that could indeed that could be used for what is the fucking word called? For reasoning why you're doing something. Quite, there's so many things you could say. There's so many things you could do. There's so many things you could be arguing about. But in the end, it is ourselves. In the end, it's ourselves that is creating the meaning behind whatever the fuck we're doing. And so basically, we could also just do that on purpose. But it is very difficult, at least for me it is. And up to this point, I haven't been able to really make that move and make that jump towards being somebody that is able to create meaning, and or maybe as well is able to just control his mind better. Anyway, appreciating basic life. The great lesson from the true mystics, from the Zen monks, and now also from the humanistic and transpersonal psychologists, is that the sacred is in the ordinary, that is to be found in one's daily life, in one's neighbors, friends, and family, in one's backyard. Abraham Maslow, Religious Values and Peak Experiences, 1970. The most fortunate are those who have a wonderful capacity to appreciate again and again, freshly and naively, the basic goods of life, with awe, pleasure, wonder, and even ecstasy. Abraham Maslow to What a Psychology of Being, 1962. We asked participants to specifically indicate what elicited, probably. Please go away. Their experience of awe. Natural scenery was described as the most frequent trigger, although other triggers were also represented, like great skill, encounter with God, great virtue, building or momentum, powerful leader, grand theory or idea, music, art, epiphany. What is an epiphany? Again, the manifestation of Christ to the Gentiles as represented by the Magi, Matthew. I see. I'm very sorry if I did not cut out the sneeze. At least I do hope that it is not too loud. Something that I think as well is very joyful and or can be very joyful is natural scenery. Having a great landscape, viewing the mountains, viewing some great place, being at a different place, because essentially with time, I think it gets progressively more difficult to appreciate one's surroundings that you're seeing every single fucking day. Like, it is just going to be more difficult. But maybe also, this is one of the reasons why traveling is such a great use of money, because you're able to appreciate those natural sceneries that you're maybe encountering, that you're maybe seeing. Natural scenery, well, I don't know, like, I think it could also be applied to some rural areas, urban areas, that I don't know, that might just be really crowded and you're seeing great architecture and whatnot, but it is also scenery. So I wouldn't necessarily say natural scenery, or I would just include man-made scenery or society-made scenery or woman-made scenery, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think indeed there are many things that maybe can be used, and just think about the fact that I haven't been thinking about that before, that can indeed be used for you feeling better and or you feeling like having purpose and or just you being a bit happier. And something pretty easy, I would say, is music, intentionally sitting down and listening to music, and or at least using it as a way to pass time, I guess, in terms of, okay, I'm riding my bike and listening to music simultaneously, which, I don't know, I do, by the way, think that classical music is pretty great. I don't like everything. I do not necessarily like certain artists per se, like Mozart or Beethoven, whomever it might be, but I think that listening to these pieces, maybe it's just easier for me as well, because I most often listen to the melody and care more about the melody than the text, unless I recognize the text and I see those great rhymes and I see those great, I don't know, just lyrics, you know. That is amazing. I appreciate that. I really, really do appreciate that when there is meaning behind those lyrics and it just sounds great. The rhymes are great and whatnot. But in general, when the melody is fucked up and I dislike it, then I'm probably not going to listen to the song. And maybe for me, it's just easier to listen and or see the great melody when there is no text and or no vocals. Anyway. The second most represented trigger was the other category, consistent with what Maslow observed. A number of the write-in responses referred to childbirth as a trigger for intense awe experiences. Is there actually AWE? The site filled me with awe, wonderment. Why? Why don't you just say wonder or astonishment or amazement or veneration or respect or admiration, like awe? And the German translation is also pretty shit. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is awe, at least not for me. Anyway, I think that I'm actually peak experiences. Maslow observed that peak experiences occurred in a wide range of people and seemed to have many triggers. Whether an excellent athletic or musical performance, creative experience, aesthetic perception, the love experience, sexual experience, childbirth, moments of insight and understanding, religious or mystical experience, or overcoming a profound challenge. Any experience that comes close to perfection, what is more, it seemed that the greater a person's psychological health, the greater the frequency of such experiences, the higher their height and the greater the intensity and the illumination. What really distinguishes self-actualizing people, Maslow argued, is that peak experiences come much more frequently and intensely. This makes self-actualization a matter of degree and of frequency rather than an all-or-none affair, and thereby makes it more amenable to available research procedures. The very beginning, the intrinsic core, the essence, the universal nucleus of every known high religion. I'm gonna end the episode there. Bye-bye. Hallo.
Hey Baby. Und, alles okay?
Ja, ist das.